Now let us learn another method to draw a frequency polygon without using a histogram, right? So let me read out the question for you. We'll learn this method by the help of this question, right? The question says the following table gives the distribution of students of two sections according to the marks obtained by them, right? We need to compare the performance of two sections, right? So these are the marks and these are the frequencies of both the section A and section B, right? We have already discussed that frequency polygon, it is very helpful when we need to compare two values or two datas, right? Frequency polygon is helpful when we need to compare two datas or two values, right? So here in this case we need to compare the marks of section A with that of section B, right? So in order to draw a frequency polygon without using a histogram, the procedure is first we need to calculate the class marks. Now what are class marks? Class marks, they are nothing but they are the average of the class interval or the midpoint of the class interval. Midpoint of class interval. CI stands for class interval, right? So I have the first class interval as 0 to 10. So what will be the midpoint? Midpoint will be, or class marks will be LCL, that is the lower class limit, plus the upper class limit divided by 2, right? The lower class limit plus the upper class limit divided by 2 will give the average or the midpoint of the class interval, which is nothing but the class marks, right? So substituting the value, we will get 0 plus 10 divided by 2, which is equal to 5, right? So I can say that our first class mark is equal to 5, right? Similarly, here also in section B, the class mark will be 5 because the first class interval is 0 to 10. Now for the second class interval, the class mark would be 10 plus 20 divided by 2, which is nothing but 30 by 2, which is 15, right? So the next class mark is 15 and 15 here as well. Now for the next class interval, I can do 20 plus 30 divided by 2, which is nothing but 50 by 2 and 25, right? You can do it by common sense as well. You can see that 25 lies at the center of 20 and 30. Similarly, you can observe that 35 will lie at on the midpoint of 30 and 40. That will be the midpoint of 30 and 40. You don't even need to use this formula, 30 plus 40 by 2. So the midpoint will be 35, right? Just by common sense you can fill the entries. You don't need to use the formulas every time. So the fourth or the fifth class interval, that is 40 to 50, 40 plus 50 by 2, it should come out as 45, right? And 40 plus 50 is 90 and 90 divided by 2 is 45, right? So we have obtained all the class marks for both the section A as well as the section B, right? Now the second step. First step was obtain class marks. The second step is plot class marks, or let's say CM, plot CM comma frequency. Now we have done the chapter coordinate geometry, and in that chapter we have learned how to plot points on a graph, right? So we need to plot these points, that is class marks comma frequency, on this graph, right? Number of students or the frequency is represented on the y axis and the marks, they are represented on the x axis. So this becomes 5 comma 3, 15 comma 9, 25 comma 17, right? We need to represent these points on the graph, right? So let us start with the first point, 5 comma 3, right? 5 comma 3 means class marks is on the x axis and frequency is on the y axis. So 5 on the x axis, that is somewhere here between 0 and 10, right? And 3 is somewhere here. So our first point, right? First point would be 5 comma 3, which is marked by this cross, right? 5 comma 3 is marked by this cross, right? The next point would be 15 comma 9, right? 15 comma 9. Now 15 will lie somewhere in between 10 and 20. So 15, and 9 will lie somewhere here between 8 and 10. So 15 comma 9 will be somewhere here, right? Next point is 25 comma 17, right? 25 comma 17. 25 will lie here between 20 and 30, and 17 will lie between 16 and 18. So 25 comma 17 will be somewhere here, right? The next point, that is 35 comma 12. So 35 on the x axis and 12 on the y axis. 35 on the x axis, this is 35, and 12, this is 12. So 35 and 12, so this becomes 35 comma 12. 45 comma 9, 45 on the x axis, that is, this one is 45 and 9 is here. So 45 comma 9 is somewhere here, right? So we have got all the points, right? Now just like the previous method, when we dealt with histogram, we need to add a class interval in the beginning and we need to add one class interval at the end as well of 0 frequency, right? So the class interval at the beginning, let me write it here. The class interval at the beginning, let's say we'll take it in negative direction, right? The class interval at the beginning will be minus 10 comma 0, right? Now this has no significance, right? This has no significance. Just in order to plot or make the area equal for a frequency polygon, with that for a histogram, we are adding this class interval at the beginning as well as at the end, right? So what will be the class mark for this class interval? It will be minus 5, which is the midpoint of this class interval. Similarly, we will be adding a class interval at the end, which will be 50 to 60, right? So what will be the midpoint of this class interval? It will be 55, right? Now both these class intervals, they will have frequency 0 as we have discussed earlier, right? So this will become minus 5 comma 0 and this will become 55 comma 0, right? So we need to plot these points as well on the graph, right? So minus 5 comma 0, that is in negative direction. Let me call this point as minus 5, right? So minus 5 comma 0 will be on the x axis only, right? No distance on the y axis. And 55 comma 0, it will lie somewhere here between 50 and 60 and no distance on the y axis, so 55 comma 0, right? Now what you need to do is you need to join all the points marked by red. So if I am joining all the points marked by red, I will get this kind of figure, right? I have joined all the points marked by red and this represents section A. This represents the frequency polygon of section A, right? So we have learned a method to draw the frequency polygon when we don't want to draw the histogram. The method is, first insert one class interval at the beginning and one class interval at the end, right? This you have to done for both the methods, right? When you are using a histogram and when you are not using a histogram, right? The next step would be draw class marks, right, or obtain the class marks for each and every class intervals. Class marks are nothing but the midpoints of the class intervals. The third step is plot class marks comma frequency, right? First you need to insert class intervals as well. Insertion of class intervals has to be done, right, before the class marks and plotting, right? Then you need to plot class marks comma frequency on the graph, right? I have done this for section A. Let me do this for section B as well, right? The first point is 5 comma 5. 5 comma 5. 5 will lie somewhere here. 5 comma 5 will lie here, right? The second point is 15 comma 19. 15 comma 19 will lie somewhere here. So 15 comma 19 will lie here, right? The next point is 25 comma 15. 25 comma 15 will lie somewhere here, right? 15 on the y axis and 25 on the x axis. We will all know how to plot points, right? The next point is 35 comma 10. 35 comma 10. 10 is here, right? 45 comma 1. 45 comma 1 I'm sorry, 35 comma 10 will lie somewhere here, right, and 25 comma 15 will lie, 25 is this and 15 is this, so it will lie here, 25 comma 15, right, and 45 comma 1 will lie somewhere here, right. Now you have inserted class intervals at the beginning and at the end as well for section B also. So those class intervals would be minus 10 to 0 and 50 to 60, right. The class intervals will remain same as the marks or the distribution of the class intervals of marks, it is same for both the sections, right. So you have to plot minus 5 comma 0 and 55 comma 0 for section B as well. So minus 5 comma 0 will be this point only and 55 comma 0 will be this point only, right. So just join all the green points. Right. Now green stands for section B, right. As you can see, we have drawn frequency polygon for section A as well as section B, and now it is very easy for us to compare the performance of both the sections, right. We can easily see the figures here and we can compare the performances. So frequency polygon, it is mainly used when we need to compare the performances or the datas for two different observations or two different datas, right. So this was the method to draw a frequency polygon without using a histogram. First you need to insert class at the beginning, at the end as well, then you need to find the class marks, which are nothing but the midpoints of the class intervals, and then you need to plot class marks comma frequency on the graph, right, and join all the points that you get to obtain a frequency polygon.